What's up, everyone? It's Spencer here from Scoped Exposure.
And Jessa from Damage Control, and together we make the host of Through Our Lens podcast.
And we are putting together the Scoped 5-year fest that's happening here in Calgary.
This fest is happening August 26th and 27th in the city of Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
We got a ton of great bands who are playing. We got a bit of a California takeover with Strife, Tsunami, and Scowl.
We've also got IM joining us from Texas, along with Ballista. We've got Karma from Chicago, Change from the Northwest, and a ton of other great supporting acts. Tickets can be bought at www.damagecontrol.store. We've got weekend passes as well as single-day offerings up there now.
You can also find the ticket link in the description of this podcast as well as either of our socials. This is something we've worked on for a long, long time. Get your tickets now, and we'll see you there.
And he clocked me dead in my face, and I broke my glasses. We were not at a show. It was a Tuesday. That's just what it is. Right. Your glasses got broke. What I'm gonna do? Beat up the homie? That's crazy.
Hey, shut that shit out. Don't be a Nazi, kid.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. We go from Canada all the way over to Baltimore, and I'm really, really excited to be talking to Akil from END IT. Thanks for coming on the show, my friend.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Obviously, the time we're recording this, about a week or so ago, Akil and the END IT gang just dropped a brand new EP, which I'm really excited to talk about. I was bumping it today to kind of prep and do the vibes. It seems like a lot of really awesome releases this year have just been super short and sweet. There's not a lot of runtime, but I think that makes for really good replayability for stuff. But I'm really excited to be talking to you, Akil, about that. There's a lot of cool Baltimore things that I think we can educate the people on as well as hit on. For those that don't know you, do you want to give a proper intro about what you do in the band and where you're based as well?
So I'm Akil, your resident. I ain't even gonna say that. I'm Akil from Baltimore. I'm the front person of the band END IT.
Very cool. And where are you
these days? Because I normally say front man, but it is front person.
Yeah, front person. And where are you calling from today?
Oh, today we at the corner of 35th Street and Frisbee off of Greenmount, Baltimore City, Waverly, shorty.
Very cool. I've always because sometimes I'm having people on the podcast where it's sometimes they're mid-tour, sometimes they're just, chilling at home, sometimes they're across the country. So I've been wanting to add that a little bit more in the interviews of where, I'm calling just from Calgary, Canada, but I wanted to add that in there. So obviously we're going to talk about the new record, but Akil came very prepared for the bev check of your episode. So I'm really excited to hear what you got. Showcase the whole gambit of what you're bringing for the show.
So you told me that y'all do a bev check at the beginning of everything. And as soon as you said that, I was like, I got a bev for him. Because whenever I do an interview or something, I have a sip. And not because I'm anxious, it's because I'm an alcoholic. So today, I decided to make just a normal classic daiquiri. I went out and procured me a bottle of rum. And I fresh squeezed some lime juice and made a simple syrup so that I can show it off. I got my nice, sick glass here.
Yeah, we're at the good day marker, it seems. Yeah, I don't know if it started at the very top where it's don't ask.
How am I that? Shit, I woke up. Like I said, the situation with the car, so I had to give my mom her car back. And then I went and ran some errands. So it actually started at a good day. Because when you don't have a car, but then people still look out for you, it's a fucking good day.
Oh,
when life folks left, but people still look out for you, every day's still a good day.
Yeah. We were talking, there was a bit of a preamble before we officially hit recording, but Akil had the unfortunate run-ins with a deer that seemed to do some kind of hard flip off of his vehicle or off of their vehicle while they were working. And yeah, so obviously, I'm gonna drop the GoFundMe link in there. I don't know, before we get into the music chats, if you want to even like share about what the fuck happened for people who are maybe hearing that for the first time.
So if you know me, you know that I do things that should not be done. So I'm out working, actually doing everything on the up and up. I've cut the app on, and I'm just working. I picked a young lady and her child up. We were headed to the airport. I go to get on the Beltway, and you know how like you got to keep up with the rate of traffic, the pace of traffic. Right as I'm accelerating, the deer jumps the guardrail. So I hit this deer doing like a smooth 45, 50. But I hit him perfectly, and he did like a burial flip, like a hard flip, landed on his feet, and then ran away. And I hope that he died in front of his family when he got home. Fuck that dude. He pushed my whole frame back. The radiator got cracked. Fan broke. I had to get it off the highway, and I know I should have just sat there. But the way I live my life, I had to get it off the highway. I don't think I warped any heads on my engine. I don't know how much you know about vehicles, but like when your car starts to overheat, things start to warp. If gaskets warp, you got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But it made it all the way home, close to home, got it towed. But I got to do all the work myself. So, you know.
Yeah. What was the passenger situation like when that was going down?
Well, luckily, they were cool. Because it was like 2:33 in the morning when this happened, and I was taken to the airport. And when it started to overheat, I just had to explain to him. I was like, I pulled over, I cut the app off, I finished the ride, and I just let them know that you're gonna have to get another driver to come pick you up. And they tried to complain a little bit, saying they shouldn't have to pay for this, that, and the third. I had a couple bucks in my pocket. And I was like, I'll get you another ride from right here. It's really not an issue. Because I've been working on it. But luckily their family came and got them. And the father, he was apologetic. He's like, oh man, I understand. And he even offered to give me a ride home.
Oh, what a nice dude.
I don't know. Everything was sick. It was everything that's happened since the deer hitting my vehicle has been much more chill than before the deer hit my vehicle, honestly. Because later that week after that, the EP drop, I put the GoFundMe up. Shout out to everyone who donated to my shit. I don't have a car. I've still been able to maneuver. Bills are paid. What more can you ask for?
Yeah. It is really cool when, you know, life happens and shit hits the fan, and a lot of the hardcore community will like, at the very least, just like signal boost it and just get it out there. You know, and that's anything, you know, of varying degrees of like, hey, like my dog is sick and needs surgery. And, you know, that dog has impacted enough of hardcore people's lives, maybe if they're like staying at that person's place, or like, you know, just someone who's, you know, down on their luck like yourself. And they're like, I use my vehicle for work. So I think it's really cool. I don't think that's a norm for a lot of like other like you know, DIY more styled music genres. So again, the link will be in there. You know, if anyone's got a couple extra bucks that we can throw Akil, that'd be awesome. We're skipping over a couple things, but I got a beverage as well. You know, when we were joking and you were saying you're bringing this like awesome cocktail, I was like, oh, like, do I have anything to make? So unfortunately I didn't. So I'm just drinking a Liquid Death. It is like brutally hot here in Calgary right now, so it's like it's all just been hydration as much as possible. So that's what I'm going to be sipping on today.
You straight
edge? No, but I don't drink enough that people mistake me for being straight edge. I love how your cat's table is like almost like a Star Wars, like, you know,
that's not easy.
Wipe transition.
It's my cat because we live in the same domicile, but that is my roommate's cat. But he rules. He fights my dog all the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So to answer your question, not straight edge, but I feel like I'm very much in that gray space where it's like I might just have a drink at a show and that's it, versus just getting completely just slammed and fucked up. So
I love straight edge kids. Like in high school, when I first got into this whole like punk rock hardcore thing, most of the kids I hung out with were straight edge because they're wild as fuck. like yeah, alcoholism, drug abuse, we may have a wild night. The straight edge wildness is a little bit more different because, like we know, everyone's sober. So then, once you end up doing whatever it is you're doing, like there's no free of inhibitions here going on. Like these dudes are just like, well, this is what we're doing now.
Right. I feel like anyone who's straight edge that's like a wild character, I feel like they act more as like a cartoon character versus like, oh, I'm just out of mind. It's like I'm literally like going so crazy like Looney Tune land because I like to have fun and I don't need drugs to have or alcohol to have fun. So yeah. Akil, all that being said, cheers to you, my friend. Really excited to do this podcast with you.
Oh, excuse me, 1 second, my phone. Cheers. There we go.
Of course. So, Akil, any new guests that I have on the show, I always like to get a little bit like of their backstory, their hardcore origin story, if you want to call it that. So take me like way back in time, even before End It was even in the picture, and like tell me the first time that you were hearing, punk, heavy music, guitar music, however you want to spin it.
So my old man was born in 49, and in 1949 up till I forget who knows what year, whatever was on the radio is what was on the radio. Mm-hmm. So I grew up just listening to music. It wasn't, as much as it was the hip hop station, the classic rock station, the alternative modern station. In his head, like in the house, it was just music. It wasn't necessarily classified by any genre.
Right.
Well, obviously it was, but you know what I mean? There was no emphasis put on like, oh, this is rock and roll. This is rap. It was like, This is just what we're listening to.
Right.
So I've always listened to, Hendrix, and pretty much every classic rock band possible. First time I heard punk or got exposed to anything hardcore wise, I got into hardcore like 04, 05. And of course I got hit through MySpace and Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Right.
So yeah, like anybody else. Like
which Tony Hawk soundtrack was your initial like
Tony Hawk
opening
1.
of the mind? Oh, Tony Hawk 1. Okay.
Yeah, like Tony Hawk 1. Because I always knew. So remember in the 90s, there was always a trope of a punker. So I was familiar with punk like mohawks, nose rings, denim jackets. They're dirty, blah, blah, blah. Then I got to high school. You start going to shows and meeting people and whatnot. And next thing you know, you're the dirty kid with the mohawk and the fucking denim jacket and shit like that. And skateboard. And a whole lot, because I was skateboarding before I played Tony Hawk because I just liked skateboarding. Of course, everyone wanted to go pro. Everyone wanted to do their thing. Didn't go pro. I don't know why. But whatever.
So,
and yeah, in the house. And I grew up in the church too. So I saw live music every Sunday.
Okay.
So like the notion of guitars or drums or anything, it's just people playing music.
Yeah, that is interesting. Like, myself included, like I had a Christian upbringing myself. So like going to church every Sunday and seeing like the live band, I would always just be perplexed by the drummer because he was so like, just like so in control of like the buildups and like some of those things. And it's like, I don't really like care to be here, but at the very least I can see these people doing the live music aspect.
But like this sucks, but that's pretty cool.
Totally. So you were saying that your dad was like very, influential as far as just like creating like a culture of music in your home. Was that like just through records or the radio was exclusive, like you said, like it was just on all the time?
Well, I mean, yeah, we black. There's always some music somewhere, you know. Like if you clean the house, we washing dishes, and of course, like the church. In terms of records or vinyl, my mom was more into collecting vinyl than my father.
Okay.
But my dad was more counterculture than my mom. So the music my mother was hitting me to, more gospel, more soul, more like smooth jazz, stuff like that. But my dad, in being a fucking hooligan in his youth, was like, yeah, this is Alice Cooper. This is Jimi Hendrix.
Cool.
This is Zach. Like, I remember the first time I heard Stairway to Heaven, my old man, we stopped at the liquor store and it came on, Stairway came on right as he went in. He was like, shut up, listen to this. I'll never forget that. Because then I listened to Stairway to Heaven for the last 20 years now.
Right. That's that's very interesting how he was like, this song is so good. We're going to literally pause anything that's going on in our lives and listen to it. And that like had a serious effect on you, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because, like I said, the dude was born in 49. So by the time he was of age and making his own decisions, you right at the beginning of the beatniks and the counterculture and LSD and like tune in and drop out, shit like that. So
right.
And he used to talk to me about reading Nietzsche and fucking I can't even think any weirdo author and stuff like that. Most of those authors that kids name drop once they go to college, I grew up reading that shit because it was just in the house.
Right.
And having weirdo conversations and talking about, like, who's my man? He wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
C.S. Lewis.
C.S. Lewis.
C.S. Lewis. So I grew up reading a whole lot of like C.S. Lewis and shit, but also I grew up in the church. And I got this dude over here who's like, yeah, you know, we go to church because we Black and that's like the community and whatnot. But there's a whole other world over here that ain't got nothing to do with Jesus. I don't know. I'm just weird and been left in my own devices for a long time.
Sure. So something you said a little earlier was just like your perception of punks was like the kids with the mohawks of all crazy colors, the piercings. But I think anyone who's been in punk and hardcore just kind of knows that like there is definitely that like Guitar Hero 2 character skin of like the super like skinny dude with that kind of hairstyle. But it is like essentially like there is like a mindset attached to it. So like you could be wearing just whatever shirt, but like you could still call yourself a punk. So like when I guess was that introduced to you, or did you have to dig a little deeper before that was realized?
I'm sorry, I just got a phone call.
No, that's okay.
It's my older brother. I love him very much. Can you ask me the question again?
Sure. So like there's like the punk, like the very stereotypical punk that we all know from like the Tony Hawk games, the Guitar Hero games, like all of the movies. When was it a little bit more apparent to you that like punk was more of a mindset as far as like a way of being and doing things versus like a way of looking and dressing yourself?
Probably, let's say I probably started really getting into punk 13, going on 14, 15. And then, all right, well, this is a little embarrassing, but I'm an embarrassment. So, you know, you got early 2000s MySpace. So my notion of what is hardcore at that point, because I didn't necessarily come in through punk. I didn't know what punk was. I was going off of what everyone called hardcore. And at that point in time, you know, skinny jeans, swoosh bangs, youth larges, a lot of jun-juns, fucking pig vocals and shit like that. I was grooving.
Panic chords.
Yeah, I read panic chords, Bree bullshit.
Yeah.
I can't say I liked it, but that is what I thought things were. Then, but I always listen to bands. I go to whatever show was around. I go to a function. I see some bands, and shout out Nicholas Calhoun, the homie. He pulled me up and was like, "Yeah, you should come over here. Like, I see what you're doing. Your heart's in the right place. Come over here." Also, there's a fucking meme that used to be on MySpace back in the day. It was some kid with the fucking swoosh bangs and small shirts screaming. It was just a picture. and it was like, this is not hardcore. And then there's a picture of fucking rabies, and it's like, this is hardcore. And I didn't have an older brother or people around me to really show me what is punk, what ain't punk. I just had the internet, whatever was going on in school. So then I found out about Warzone. That's why I love Warzone so much. Because like Warzone was really the first actual hardcore band that I listened to that I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be over here with these. This is what I want to do. Because they speak directly to what I'm going through.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I feel like it always takes like one band to like actually be like, oh, like I get it now when it comes to this hardcore world. And like, I don't know. I don't think that I don't expect most people to agree with this, but like at this point in my life, like I've been in hardcore for like close to 10 years now. It's like very much an umbrella term when it comes to like, there's bands that sound like Disembodied, and then there's bands that sound like Madball, and those are still considered like hardcore bands. And then so there's all that kind of stuff. But I do think that there is usually when you're coming through, like for me, it was a lot of like listening to like you said, like the rise core kind of shit where it's like, I like this heavy music. But I was like kind of passing it up as that. And then honestly, I think one of the gateway bands into that maybe understand hardcore and what it's actually about was Trapped Under Ice. So it was like just the meanness and the rawness of like, all of their early records. I was like, oh, I get it now. Because even before that, when people would show me like actual punk music, I'm like, why is this recorded so shittily? Like I can't hear everything. And it's funny, like fast forward now, there's still like people that praise democore, and I'm like, I still don't get it if like someone's demo is actually unlistenable. So that's a whole nother can of worms. But yeah, I do agree that there is like
the poor quality of something for its authenticity. But if it sounds like shit, I don't want to listen to it.
Right. There's definitely bands that will put things out where it's like, maybe I've seen it live first. So I'm like, oh, I can't wait to listen to this band. And I'm like, oh, like I guess I can only see this band live versus like bopping them on, and there's like certain punk bands that are so like, I'm not putting my shit only on Bandcamp, and it's like, well, that's just at this point in my life, it's just too hard to listen to that to your music at that point. But yeah, I totally agree. It's like there's a band that I will leave their name out of it, but they were recording with a friend of mine who's an amazing engineer and producer, and they were like, we like they were upset with the quality of their demo because it sounded too good. They're like, can you make it sound more shitty? And he's like, I actually don't know what that means. Like, do you want me to like take the mic placement on the guitar cab and move it over? Like, I don't know.
For engineering, and no.
Yeah, because for those reasons, I'm out.
A piece of shit. I'm not gonna put out a piece of shit. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like literally just go rent a microphone and stick it in the middle of the room. So that's a whole another can of worms. But I do agree that there is like kind of a certain band that will like connect those people that are coming from the different worlds into like the vastness of what hardcore in 2022 looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will say so, and going back to like what music and bands sort of kind of shaped, informed me to get here. Shout out MTV when they actually played videos. Because so like I came in from hip hop. My two older brothers, I came in from Baltimore club music and rap. So like I forgot my fucking train of thought. Anyway,
coming from rap music.
Yeah, I mean, coming from rap and whatnot, I mean, some demos sound good, some demos sound bad, but I forgot how I was going to tie that in. Don't do drugs.
When you forget what you're going to say, just say something positive at the end of it, just to save it.
Yeah, just a good segue. Anyway, on to the next bit.
Yeah. So yeah, we learned a little bit of the early Akil, heavy music story. Tell me, how the
That's what I was
idea.
gonna say.
Oh,
Shout out
yeah.
MTV and music videos and whatnot, because I was born in 1990. So like, as much as I give off this old school, old band dinosaur aesthetic, I'm still very young. You know what I mean? I'm only 32. So like, Good Charlotte, Simple Plan, Green Day, uh, Hoobastank, all that Stained, all that shit. That was like my real intro to an alternative sound. Or like, because like, and early 2000s, like being black and skateboarding and doing all that shit, it wasn't the norm, so it wasn't accepted. But I like what I like. You know what I mean? Like, Good Charlotte really. And then I found out Good Charlotte was from Maryland, so of course I was like, "Yo, this shit is tight." And they had that aesthetic and whatnot, but luckily I was able to grow up and progress and do other shit, and didn't stay there, because ain't nothing weird than a motherfucker being in their 30s still clinging to pop punk. Cut it out. And I'm gonna say this because I can fight. Cut it the fuck out. Go talk to adult women and do adult things. Maybe get a mortgage. I don't know, but nah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot. There's a little bit of shit talking now, but I think a lot of people are like praising this like return of pop punk because of people like Machine Gun Kelly. I'm like, I don't want to see 30 to 40-year-olds who are singing those songs. Like, it's just a little like outside of the age group that's appropriate.
I don't know. Even with the little bit of time we've been a band, there's songs where like I'll like we'll be practicing and like I'll listen to them and listen to the lyrics again. I'm like, I'm not even there anymore. That was 5 fucking years ago. That was before I had a child. Like, so many things have transpired. I'd be an asshole to sit here and act like I'm still there. There has to be some growth in life.
Totally. So that's a great segue, honestly. And I'm glad you brought it back, because I felt like it was a hard segue and then we kind of jumped back to it. But this feels like a more proper one. Tell me about like the origin of End It, and like, was that your very first band that you started? Like, is this that classic like one band breaks up and then another forms immediately after with a bunch of members? Tell me about kind of like day one of End It and the original idea of that.
So I was in a band called Malicious Code. Shout out Malicious Code. Malicious Code had members of multiple bands. The homie Mitch, he was in this band Surroundings. And he was trying to do a more metal thrash type thing. And I make no qualms about the fact that I don't fuck with metal. I do not like metal. I do not like black metal. I had no critique on what the fuck you do with your free time. That ain't my shit. But I always wanted to be in a band. I got asked to come sing for a band. I wouldn't sing for a band. Malicious Code was cool. Then, in being in the Code, the homie Chase saw me perform one night. He just happened to know that these dudes were looking for a vocalist. I guess about maybe a week later after he told me, I went to practice, and they were just writing a song. And I actually wrote Give Up. I wrote Give Up within 30 minutes of sitting there while these dudes, because they just had songs. They didn't have a vocalist. So they just played through, and while they were practicing, I wrote Give Up. And then we performed that song that evening, and now here we are.
Wow. Okay. So did you just have the hunger to play in something that was a little bit more raw and punk versus what you were doing before? And then the minute that you had that opportunity, you're like, I'm set. I'm ready to do that.
Well, the other band, there was a lot of rules. Old boy would give me shit about what I should and should not write about. And one thing about me, I'm not going to come in and disrupt what's going on. You got to figure out the lay of the land before you decide to mess it up. Totally. So I come to the band. This is what they sound. We would go over lyrics, and he didn't feel comfortable, whatever. So I'd work with him and write music that he was cool with. I got the opportunity to go do the thing End It, and in being an End It, no one cared. You know? Like, they were just like, you're going to write words, and that's cool.
Yeah, the only requirement is to fill the space. That's it.
Yeah, there was no censorship in End It, and that was the best. Because I'm never going to say something so radicalized and forgetting the fact that I got 4 other dudes who have to stand up to that.
Right.
I'm not that inconsiderate, but it was nice to just be given the chance to just say whatever the fuck I wanted.
Right. And like felt empowered to do that. It wasn't like this like dancing game of like, oh, like what are the things? But like I think that's an awesome thing about hardcore and punk music. And I struggle with this as someone who's like I'm definitely a visionary of like my own bands and the own things that I'm a part of. And I've had to like remind myself to like sometimes the best things are like when you take your hands off of the wheel and allow the other person to like just go and do it. And if they need help, they'll come to you. But like sometimes putting people in those positions will yield like the best results, you know?
Right. But one of the things, and I do this a lot lately, I try to give people their flowers regardless of how relationships or situations end. I learned Verse So Nice, we did it twice from that band. And also, you don't have to fill the whole song with lyrics. Like you can let it breathe. Let the musicians be musicians.
Mm.
So shout out to Malicious Code. Malicious Code was cool. That's where I
Yeah.
got my start. And then, like I said, I joined End It, and it's been that. What is it? 2022. So like for the last 6 years.
Yeah, because the first release came out in 2017, but you know, usually a band is jamming at least a year prior.
At least, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
So yeah, you guys put out that, you know, the initial release. There, I think there's been a couple of like smaller releases, kind of through and through that, and then Unpleasant Living is like kind of the newest thing. So like, how do you think each release of End It, you can really only speak on like your own, vocal side of things, but how do you feel like each release has leveled up, and what have you noticed the most about yourself of how you have either evolved as a vocalist or changed things, or like, you know, like you said, like people should change, especially if they're writing about something on their first release and then they're 4 releases later. So, and anything that comes to mind there?
So like the first release, you know, obviously I don't know these dudes and that's one of the more weird things I've noticed in being in a band. Unless you start a band with dudes you know, and I'm talking like friends.
Yeah.
I didn't know these dudes at all. All I know is that you play punk, I like punk, we're in a punk band.
Right.
That's it. I don't know your background. I don't know your home life. I have no idea what has occurred in your world before we got together, but I know we play music together. So of course the demo is going to be infantile. We haven't gone through anything yet. It's just a bunch of dudes we met. It's like let's look at it in terms of a relationship. We're in the honeymoon phase. We just having fun.
Right.
The second EP. Well, oh shit, what's that? One Way Track. We got a new drummer because the drummer we had some things he needed to figure out, but they weren't congruent with what we had going on, so he had to go. Our bassist at the time also had things going on. Because remember, we're punkers. We're not mentally stable. Like people got lives to lead outside of being in a band. So, you know, you have member changes. We did One Way Track. And then on One Way Track, as opposed to the End It demo, the EP, of course, the sound grew, but we also went in a more modern hardcore route. Because those two other dudes were more traditional punkers, you know what I mean? Like our original drummer, shout out Ryan Favre, old boy got them fucking Black Flag scissors tattooed from his fucking groin up to his neck.
Sure.
Like punk. We're punks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then with One Way Track, we started going in a more contemporary hardcore route. And I don't necessarily think that was what they were into. You know what I mean? People have their feelings on things. Hardcore's full of tough guys and knuckleheads, and I don't like that. And I am a tough guy and a knucklehead, and I don't like that shit either. So I understand. So we had a couple member changes. We picked up Chris. We picked up Pat Martin. But as you know, they're hit. Because like in 2006, some kids were just listening to Against Me, and some kids were listening to Madball. That's going to bring a different sound. Those are two different. As much as it's the same genre of alternative punk hardcore, as you know, it's two different sides of the spectrum.
Right.
So we got some dudes who are more down with what we were trying to do, and now on this one, we've all hit a couple tours and done some things. And of course, the pandemic and remaining a band and dealing with the ins and outs of life, we were able to come up with Unpleasant Living. So, it actually has matured. Like you see, ain't as many songs about killing yourself. You know what I mean?
Right. I do like that first thing that you said, though, just about like a lot of people that listen to this podcast can probably attest to like, yeah, I've joined a band where it's like, I might have known these people because I've like seen them at shows or different things, but it's not we were like, like two peas in a pod. It was like, I have no idea like what your quirks are, like what upsets you, like your belief, like, but I know that the starting ground is at least punk music and we can go from there.
You have enough money and mental stability to show up to practice and have, so that's great.
Yeah. There's definitely, and I think, especially as bands grow too, like that's something else where it's very easy for, 4 or 5 dudes, or people to like get in a room and start playing punk music. They're like, yeah, we want to go on tour, like, 300 days of the year. We want to go to Europe and we want to do these things. And then the rare chance that some of those opportunities actually start to show their face, some people are like, oh, this actually isn't what I'm, or what I want to focus on or what I'm even built for. So then, there needs to be some like, hard looks in the mirror, and like, making judgment calls. And that's easier said than done, but you never know until you're actually, doing it with these people.
Our first tour, not to cut you off, my apologies.
No, please.
Our first, we went from our first tour, like our first show outside of Maryland, in the first incarnation that ended, we went to Chicago. And of course, we drink, we party, whatever. And one of the homies threw some fucking trail mix around the tour van. And then like the sliding door wouldn't close. And now we're at a welcome center in Ohio. And I'm like, I think I may kill him. I think I may just leave his body in this fucking bathroom. Like you can't prepare people for that. Cause like we don't have money. I'm already a ne'er-do-well. And now we may potentially be stuck in Ohio with a door that won't close before we even play our first show.
And there's trail mix everywhere.
So now there's food we didn't get to eat. You're fucking blackout drunk. This isn't our van, and the door won't close.
Right.
Sick. Can I?
When you said being in a van with people or with someone specifically that's throwing trail mix around, as someone that just got back from like a really short stint of shows, I would be like losing my mind if someone was throwing trail mix around. Because not only is that, that's good food to eat while you're on the road, but I'm thinking of the chocolate chips that get stuck and then you're just in this hot van and then it's just melted and gross and then it's like a bigger mess. But I do think that
it wasn't even like he was throwing trail mix around. We drink. We're drinkers. We pulled into the rest stop to go use the bathroom. I'm in the bathroom dropping the deuce. The homie comes in. He's like, "Kill, sliding door won't close." Because I guess he went to open the trail mix, got frustrated, and just fucking threw it.
Oh, okay.
And in doing so, a bunch of almonds got stuck on the track, and then the door wouldn't close.
I thought it was just the serendipity of both things happening at the same time, but really it was the almonds of the trail mix that broke the door.
Just like of all places for them to land. We're in Ohio, so it's either drive back to Maryland with the van door open or drive to Illinois with the van door open.
Right.
It's March.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
And that just might just be bad karma of or proper karma as far as wasting good almonds.
No,
And
definitely proper karma.
proper karma for sure. So, going back to what we were saying, I think it is like this thing where it's like, I think people love hardcore so much that they're not really thinking about all the different potential variables of like jamming with different people. It's more about like, I just love this shit and I want to write music, and like, this person seems adequate enough, and if at least they're showing up at, going to practice, we can figure out the rest from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because remember, hardcore is full of insane people.
Mm-hmm. Very, very much so. So let's fast forward a little bit to the latest End It release. So the very first single, or the first two singles really, I think had like some great music videos attached to them. And as someone that like grew up on a very organic YouTube algorithm, I was always finding out about new bands through music videos. So I love seeing more bands do stuff like that. So Haykeeper definitely was like, I just love this whole premise of you talking shit and the rest of the band playing, and everyone's like, no one's into it. So I was curious if you could kind of break down the idea of that and just like the filming of that, because I'm sure there was certain takes where people were just like, they had to look like they weren't having a good time, but they were just laughing because the situation was just hilarious.
So funny you should mention that. As we were doing it, there's a bunch of takes no one saw. Where I'm standing at the podium and I'm improvising and I'm saying stuff, and you can't laugh because we're recording.
Right.
But also that whole shoot took maybe 11, 14 hours. You know what I mean? We had performed that song maybe 45, 50 times that day. We all smoke and drink or whatever. So I'm in my head like, why am I not getting laughs? But it's because the audience is trying to be respectful of the fact that we're doing a professional recording.
Right.
So when I left that day, I was actually like a little upset. I was like, I didn't make no one laugh while we were recording this. But then in talking to people, they were like, Q, I didn't want to fuck you guys up.
Right.
You guys are actually recording. I forgot.
You're in character. You gotta, stay with it.
Yeah. This is not a character. This is who I This is how I exist in the world.
Yeah.
So
yeah. There is definitely, I think that I'm gonna give a shout out to Balaram, who's he's like a yoga hardcore dude. Yeah, stage dive yoga. Shout out to Balaram. I think he did like a reaction to that video, and he was just like dying laughing when you were on the podium, just like, I hate you, I hate your band. And so maybe there wasn't as many laughs like during the recording, but I'm sure a lot of people just were busting their guts when they were watching it.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But yes, that whole video, our drummer, shout out Chris. Chris got these outfits off of Amazon, and I guess because we called it Hatekeeper. I don't know where his rhyme was or why, but he was like, I just want to remake the Player Haters Ball sketch from Chappelle Show, but shoot a music video. And that's perfect.
Yeah.
What more? It's perfect. That just makes some perfect sense. Even though the song, obviously, I don't think I've talked to many people about where that song came from. But you've been in hardcore for 10 years. You get these people who or even just outsiders, they hear about things and they comment on what's going on. And it's like you're not here. You're not a part of what we're doing. Yeah, you like hardcore. You've been going to shows maybe 3-4 years. There's cats in this room been going to shows 30, 35 years now, 20 years now.
Right.
What is such a moment to you, it's life-changing. You have all these opinions. That's just a fucking Tuesday. This shit ain't even nearly as wild as it was when I got in.
Right.
You know what I mean? You upset about crowd killing. I've seen stabbings and assaults and weapons. It's just a difference. But every time, all those kids who have something to say and they give their opinions, they write these fucking think pieces. they move on to doing whatever they want to do anyway, which is being an accountant. You know,
Right.
become a teacher or something. Like you're not, and I'm not gonna sit here and act like being down for hardcore your whole life is a mature thing to do or beneficial in life. It's rather self-serving. I do it because I fucking want to. I'm not here to change the world. I just like hardcore. This is just
Right.
hardcore. This is what we do. But like, no one actually, I don't really care about what your feelings or opinions are when all you do is exist on the internet, and then you're gonna leave after a couple years.
Yeah.
Because as we talk about, not to keep cutting you off, but we talk about venues and spaces. Like hardcore extends beyond the show. That's a venue. And as much as we don't like money, things cost money. So like there's bartenders, there's there's bouncers, there's audio, like live sound technicians. There's a lot of things going on, and friends and people with families and parents as well that are benefiting off of this thing. And you just come in here, dictate how you feel it should be, and then you leave. And what about us? It didn't stop because you left.
I think hardcore is a music genre where you learn by being involved. And that could be anything from like booking shows, filming shows, doing a zine, playing in bands. I do think that all of those things, I think anyone, and maybe I'm just only speaking for myself, as someone that has played in tons of bands, I've booked like a handful of shows. I wouldn't say like I'm an avid person. It's like any time that is related to scope, I have a hand in that. Filming shows, doing this podcast, like actually like having my pulse on what's happening. Not only like, and having a pulse on what's happening isn't just who are the bands that are popping right now. It's like, what are people talking about? Like, what is the vibe as far as like the style of music that people are portraying? How is hardcore being like spilled into other areas of music and in culture and all those things? I feel like the more that you are involved, the more respect for people that that want to express how they feel about a certain way. Like for someone who goes to one show and has a bad experience and blows about it on the internet, it's like, where have you even been? You know, like I think if you are at these shows and you're doing more on top of that, then you actually have a sense of like, you brought up the crowd killing thing, and I think you're seeing that rant video of yours go viral was like very hilarious. But it is so apparent that like people are like, it's that classic thing, like everyone's got an opinion about something, and whether it's like sound or not. But I think the more that you're actually involved and your actions like showcase that, I think a lot of people will just want to look at things very black and white. And I think to your point, like there's a lot of stuff in the middle and there's a lot of gray. And I think it's fine to like lean one way or the other. But I think there's a lot of stuff where it's like you're conditioned to like, oh, it's opposing sides. So it's like, well, no, I think there's something in the middle. I think I'm all for people crowd killing. And I think it's like very apparent where it's like, I think someone's got to chill out a little bit, because now it's becoming a little bit too malicious versus like, hey, someone took a fist to the face. I don't know.
But there's also that whole thing, as we all know, at least in Baltimore, I can only really speak to Philadelphia and Baltimore because that's where I've spent the majority of my hardcore time. You gotta police yourself. So like, if there's a dude in there, there's like going off, because like I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I never smacked somebody on the side of the pit. There's going off and having fun, and then there's like this one time, old boy was only standing at the edge of the pit. He was only just fucking kids up. So we dragged him outside because like, you're just assaulting people at that point. It's another thing to be into the performance that's going on. We understand the style of dancing we do and having fun. And there's another thing for you to just hang around the edge of the pit and fuck kids up.
Right.
But the responsibility comes on you, and hopefully you got people with integrity in your scene who are willing to stop that.
Right. I think
Because there's catching a fist, and then there's getting assaulted.
Right. Yeah, that's a very there is a lot of space in between there, and I think it's also important about like reading the room too. Like if you are someone that like likes to move around and it's just a show where maybe you were the only person who was willing to move around, maybe it's like not the set to do that. Also, if you're watching a clearly like a beat down S band, like the vocalist is saying like fuck someone up, blah blah blah, like maybe it's time to like find a different spot in the room to watch it versus like someone who's like a little bit more like, oh, like this is the more stage dive dance clap our hands kind of band. I feel like there's just not enough awareness of what's going on.
Yeah, you got to have some situational way. Like just because you're under the guise of a show and hardcore and whatnot, you're still a human on the planet Earth, so just pay attention.
Right.
Now, I will say, though, in being a knucklehead, I pit hard as fuck last time Shelter played at home. And you could tell a lot of like 40 plus people were very upset at me. Because I was like cartwheeling during Shelter. I was fucking kids up. But I love Shelter. But guess what, though? No one, I mean, obviously I didn't get my head kicked in. And someone could have easily been like, "Kill, calm down," and that would have just been that.
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes we're still punks at heart. Like, I'm still gonna take advantage of the situation if I feel like it.
Right. And again, this goes back to the whole like no rules thing, where it's like, if someone's like, "Hey, like, let's chill out," and it's like a friend of yours or like someone else who's running the show. That's all it really takes. I think a lot of people, again, they only think of like a black and white where it's like you're either at the show and having a perfect time and doing whatever the fuck you want, and then there's like you're banned from these shows from this person. It's like you could just be like, "Hey man, I'm gonna cap you there," or whatever it is.
Hey man,
say that again.
All you gotta do is say, "Hey man, you gotta calm down," and I'll say, "Okay."
Right. Yeah. I think there's not enough just like openness of, I have people where they've talked about, it's like, hey, could we just be like all, it's not about like, oh, like you talk shit, because like everyone in hardcore has talked shit about something, a band, a scene, whatever it is. But could we just become a little bit more responsible of one another when the shit talking gets too far, where it becomes actual gossip and malicious communication between, like dividing people. So I think, yeah, I totally agree that there just needs to be a little bit more accountability on yourself and, the people that you roll into the show with,
Like even at the bar, my buddy, someone played I think someone put on like Set It Off or something, and he clocked me dead in my face, and I broke my glasses. We were not at a show. It was a Tuesday. That's just what it is. Right. Your glasses got broke. What I'm gonna do? Beat up the homie? That's crazy.
Mm.
It's a part of the thing. It's called hardcore.
Right.
It's not called softcore.
Or like, squishy or, tender or anything like that.
This ain't a fucking anime or some shit. Like, this is real life and things occur. Now, if I go to you go to a Fleetwood Mac show, you start two-stepping. All right, calm down. This is a hardcore show. This is what occurs here. And especially at this point in human history, we all know majority of you younger kids got here from the internet. So like you got here through, shout out Sonny, through a Hate 5-6 or Feet First Productions. I'm sure I'm missing out on a lot of people. Like you've seen the pictures, you've heard the stories. So it's violent.
Mm-hmm.
That's the draw. The draw is that you get to come here and be reckless for a second. That doesn't just apply to everyone else. Like it's like when you're driving a car and a motherfucker's on their phone and not keeping up with the rate of traffic. You're a part of this thing called traffic. We're in this together. Sometimes you hit a deer. Sometimes you don't.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
If you don't want to hit a deer while driving, you probably shouldn't fucking drive.
Right. There's a slight, like every and any show that anyone goes to, there's like a slight chance that you could walk home with a broken bone or a nose or something like that. Like there's always a chance of that, but like that level of like, you know, the adrenaline and just having to be in tune with your spidey senses is like, that is the draw. And you can't get that, like you said, at Fleetwood Mac show.
You can't get that at Fleetwood Mac show.
Yeah. Akil, I wanted to ask you a question, and this is kind of a tangent off of, you know, the thing that we were just talking about like, you know, there's a lot of people that can scrutinize about something without actually being in it. And I feel like this is a broad enough question that really can apply to any guest that I have here on the show and the listeners as well. So what do you think is the coolest thing that is happening in hardcore right now that you're like the most excited about? It's like definitely on the right track. And then what is the thing that is happening right now that you're like, we need to change that, we need to end it, you know, pun intended. And how do you see, or how would you go about doing that, and why why does that grind your gears? So it's a two-parter there.
And all
you get
honesty,
to choose if the positive or the negative one comes first.
Well, in trying to, I don't know, I've really gotten into like self-fulfilled prophecies and manifesting and shit like that. I don't, at this point, really have a problem with, hey, as long as the kids are coming to the shows, no one's getting hurt, people are having fun, I don't really give a fuck what the fuck's happening. I hope the shit evolves in the way it's supposed to, and it gets to where it's supposed to be. Because like, I had a lot of old school dinosaur feelings about things, but that doesn't apply to, that's why it's called evolution. You must evolve. Regardless of how I feel about something, that doesn't change the way the world is going. So I try not to even harken on it. Because in talking to the homies, there's all the things we talking about, that's always been going on. Like anything I could say that I don't like, it was going to happen. It's always been happening. I just wasn't there. I'm just happy that during and after the pandemic, we got new bands popping up. There's more younger kids. You know what I mean? Because of course, in doing the things we do in the ages we get jaded, and you don't think things are going to progress forward, and depression and all that shit occurs. And then, in being from Baltimore, I look up 4 or 5 new bands. There's new younger kids. There's new faces, and of course, personally, there's more black kids. One of my whole things, and one of the major reasons I still do this hardcore thing, is to like, maybe you watched the YouTube video and you grew up listening to rap or whatever, and you see my black ass on stage, and you're like, well, maybe I'm gonna go check that out. And then you come check that out, see whatever other bands are playing, and you get into hardcore. And like maybe your parents got money and you start a venue or open a practice space. You know what I mean? I just wanted to continue because, like, not to be cliche or corny, I'd be fucking dead if it wasn't for hardcore. I'd either actually killed myself or done some dumb crime or like something, just something. I wouldn't even be here. And I just hope that the shit keeps going. And I like the progression. There's more kids coming out. There's more, I'm going to say female fronted because I don't know every motherfucker's pronoun, but you look like a girl, so I'm going to call you one. There's more space being made for people who aren't just white dudes to come express themselves. Because as much as I do say you should kill yourself, because guess what? Hey, I can't live your life. If you think you need to go, goodbye. But maybe we can save a few, you know? Make a space. You can make some friends, some camaraderie. It's great. I love it. More kids, more women, more people of color.
Yeah, totally. I definitely think that, you know, the very profound thing to say there as far as like, yeah, I wouldn't be on this earth living and breathing if it weren't for hardcore. And I feel like, I'm thinking about when Jay from Mindforce came on the podcast, and he was saying like it feels like the older that he gets, like
I'm gonna interrupt you. Shout out fucking Jay from Mindful. Shout out
yeah,
Mindful.
shout out to Jay, an absolute real one.
Not,
Probably
yeah.
one of my favorite podcast episodes that we did this season. But
Hell yeah.
when he came on, it was like the older I get, I feel like the more of hardcore that I need. And obviously, like I think there's people that can get very like they only lean on hardcore and they don't really think about taking what they learn from it and applying it to the rest of their life. And that could be anything from like their lifestyle choices, what they're doing professionally, like. But I do see people that come into this space and they absorb it and then they take that out and they're like, hey, I'm going to school for social work, or I'm going to be going out and doing this. And I wouldn't have actually like found that purpose or that why if it weren't for this like weird music where I'm piling into a basement with like a ton of strangers on a Thursday night.
Yeah. Like hardcore is sick.
Very. And
There's
I'm the
no, like, in all honesty, dog, there's no reason I should be here if we really look at my upbringing and all that shit. There was nothing, like I said, I came from rap and Baltimore club music and hip hop. I grew up in the church. Nothing about my home life was geared towards being in a fucking punk band and going to shows. You know what I mean? Or anything like that. My old man worked in a steel mill. My brother works for an audiovisual company. My mom was the first one to go to college, get a master's degree. Everything was geared towards that American dream, that like socialization, that normalization thing. You know, finger snap out of sharecropping and slavery and shit. Just make your money, take care of your family, and take it easy. But they did all that work, which created a space for me to be able to express myself. And in doing so, here we are. So I'm gonna stick around and let a bunch of other people know, like, you know what, you can do it. Now, and that's not to say motherfuckers is making money or like shit sweet. Shit ain't sweet at all. I'm still on child support and bullshit, you know, car fucked up, GoFundMe's. But it's nice to just be able, I don't know, people like it, we can relate, and that's cool. Representation matters.
Yeah. I think Joseph from Tsunami said on a set once, which is always funny because I like Joseph and I are like really close friends, and it's always funny because people only think of Tsunami as this like, oh, none of the members can read and they just write this dummy beatdown music, but like Joseph like really at times
none of
really
those at all.
What's that? Can you say that one more time?
I said none of those dudes are dumb at all.
Yeah, straight up. I think that there's so Joseph said something. I think it was during the Tsunami LDB set where it was like hardcore is like 25% about your musical like preferences and 75% about like your lifestyle choices, and that's anything from like, hey, I'm using my recreational money not to go on this like crazy just like frivolous trip to do whatever, but I'm going to go and fly halfway across the country to go see these hardcore bands at a fest. Or I'm going to spend, the money that I could on like, a bunch of, whatever it is. It could be buying records. It could be about, giving Akil money for, their GoFundMe, like all that. How many times can we mention your GoFundMe during this podcast is the real question.
Give me money for my GoFundMe. A deer tried to end my life.
Yeah, but I think it's really about that, and I think if it was just the music, I think people wouldn't love this as much as it is, or be as involved, because it's so clear that like hardcore just has this like lush desire for people to be a part of something and be a part of a community, and for the most part, people are pretty open to be like, well, this isn't happening and this is the change I want to see for my scene, so I'm just going to go out and do it. And whether that's, booking shows, playing in a certain style of band that maybe isn't the norm for your area, I think it's awesome. And like, I think that if anything has kept and given a lot of people their own sense of purpose, that maybe their upbringing kind of like, there was more done within hardcore to have someone be like, no, it is worth, I am worthy and I am of worth to other people and to and those things than maybe their upbringing or how they were raised. And honestly, like that's beautiful.
Yeah. Like only at a hardcore show, don't nobody give a shit where you came from, what you do. You like this band? Like when you meet someone at a show and like you click, the vibes match.
Right.
I'm not worried about your home life or what your parents were like. And this is a topic we don't have enough time. I don't necessarily care about whatever sketchy shit you get into when we're not here, which is how we get predators and abusers. Fuck you fucking assholes who come in here and take advantage. But it's it comes with the territory. We're bad kids. You like hardcore because you're bad. You don't fit in. For some reason you think this is cool. That's why you're here. And that, it's just like jail and anything else. You're gonna have good ones and bad ones. But it's very sick that all that racial shit, all that shit go to the wayside. We here to see this band. That's cool. Mm-hmm. Now, whatever we discuss after that band, we'll deal with that when we get there. But like, only in hardcore can like a Muslim kid from Saudi Arabia listen to Sheer Terror and be like, I fuck with that, and then come to the Sheer Terror show and be fully accepted. Whether you drink, whether you don't drink, you eat meat, don't meat, no one fucking cares. You fuck with this band, I think you're cool. Hello, we are in this together.
I think there's that classic thing, and this is more like in your job kind of setting, but it's like, oh, you have to like earn my trust or my respect. But I think I am a firm believer of just like giving that to people up front and giving them the opportunity. And some people may disagree with that, but it's like, how are we actually going to be like super inviting of people? And obviously there's a layer of that where it's like, yeah, it could be super inviting of people who are going to take advantage of, that open and accepting space.
That's really why it hurts so bad when you find out that like one of your homies has sexually assaulted somebody or done something sketchy or anything like that. Because I agree with you 3,000%. If we're the supermarket and you got Black Flag tattoo, we're friends.
Right.
Like in that instant moment, we are connected on a level, because it's not like you're just wearing the shirt. You got it tattooed. So at some point, it really meant something to you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's not family. Like you picked it up off the rack and then someone's rolling up being like, name 5 Black Flag songs. Yeah. It's like, oh, you got a tattoo. You like that. That's something you can't hide.
You can't hide. Like, we're kin. So then when you find out that this person, their ethos and mindset don't align with yours, it hurt a whole lot. But I'm still gonna keep giving that trust out forever, because as much as it goes left, it has gone right numerous times.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's nice to know I can go to any country on this fucking planet and I got a place to sleep. Like, I got people who will look out for me. Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful thing.
I just thought of this, and I don't know why I've never thought of it this way, but it's like, people can be like, oh yeah, like hardcore, like there's tons of abusers and there's like stories that come out and all of like different scales of degrees of like, yo, this person's like the scum of the earth. And then there's like a lot of stuff in between. I'm not trying to like essentially decide on what's good or bad, but I think the thing that I want to say is that like, yo, they're those same people are at country shows or at rock shows or at rap shows or at hip hop shows. The difference here is that hardcore is so community.
Congress, the Senate.
Yeah, like all of those like bad people that are doing bad things are hiding in a multitude of different like music genres, like fandoms, like all of that. I think the thing with hardcore is that it is so community focused. So like when that comes out, like you said, it is like it's so personal. Like for people that they have played in bands with, people that it just becomes a huge thing because like you could get like no one's canceling someone or calling out someone who listens to like fucking like bluegrass music. You know, it's just like, oh, that person might have a personal little thing within their circle of friends, but not within their whole music community.
But when that shit happens amongst us, because I mean, and it is going mainstream, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But hardcore, you're never going to take it so fucking mainstream.
Right.
You feel me? Because like, and it's crazy in terms of hip hop when there's beef. You know, in the 90s we had Tupac, Biggie, East Coast, West Coast. It got commercialized. That there was a lot of big shit bolstering that situation. In terms of hardcore, though, we all know the way things work in politics and whatnot. In hardcore, someone will be like, "Yeah, we could go do this, but this is what I believe in, so I'll throw all this shit away right now."
Mm.
Like, cancel my band. Like, for real, dog. If someone would have come to the show, and I hope I'm not putting my foot in my mouth. If I found out that a good friend of mine actually sexually assaulted somebody, I'm going to hurt you. And I don't give a fuck who you are. I don't care how much you contributed or whatever. If I have 100% confirmation that you've done something to someone, all this band shit will go away and I'll just be some other black person from Baltimore. And I don't give a fuck because that's not what we're here for.
Yeah, totally.
But so we find that in hardcore. You know what I mean? Most people aren't going to throw away the chance at $100,000, $200,000, $1 million because their friend did some shit. But only in hardcore we'll be like, you know what, dog? We're just gonna take them out back and work them over, and whatever happens is what happens. Good friend or not.
Yeah.
At least that's the how it came up.
Yeah, totally. Like, and I think that, you know, it becomes so messy. And like you said, like we could either like fully lean into this or we can like, you know, pause there and veer off because it is such a convoluted topic when it comes to like, like how do you know 100%? And then like, you know, it just becomes this whole thing. And I feel like, especially at a show, if any of those things are coming out, like tensions are already high and there's energy in the room. So yeah, it's a whole gambit of things. I think the main thing that I think we both agree on is that there should be no tolerance off of like, you know, crystal clear, no doubt about it. Like this person doesn't align with the ethics and the morals of what our community stands for.
Exactly. You gotta, and that's why we wrote Hate Keeper and shit like that, because like I've been down 15 years, something like that. And many a time, many a feeling about a dude, but I didn't know them, not my friend. Who am I to just go assault somebody? So I don't. And then 5-6 years go by and you find out like, oh, they did this and they did that. And it's like, I knew I should have. Because my intuition be on point. I knew I should have, but you know, you can't just go beating up everybody.
Right.
And especially being black in hardcore, as many motherfuckers I should have knocked out for saying slick shit. But you know, you just gotta let it ride.
Mm-hmm.
Whole country's built on racism. It's not surprising people are racist. It's just what it is.
Mm-hmm. So we've talked about Hate Keeper as far as the song, the why, and you know we hit on the music video a little bit more. So talk to me about New Age Slavery. You know that video is a totally different kind of vibe. You know, there's obviously some like, you know, you guys walking around Baltimore and doing some things, but you know some live stuff that's kind of mixed in. To me, that just feels like End It is a band that really reps where y'all are from, and like New Age seems to just like sprinkle in a little bit of that as well. So anything you want to say as far as the intention behind having that music video be differently, and anything you want to say lyrically on the song?
Well, in terms of that video being different, obviously we didn't necessarily, there was no Chappelle show or anything involved. Excuse me. so new wage slavery, um, I guess a lot of that came from me like trying to work for people. Like, I'm a fucking ne'er do well. I'll work at Amazon. You know what I mean? I'll go wash dishes. I'll cook. I'll throw trash. I'll deliver packages. Like whatever I gotta do to get to the dollar legally, I will. But in doing these jobs, but having friends who own businesses and being on the inside of things, and in terms of capitalism and whatnot, you understand that like there's no way a business owner is going to pay you enough money for you to start your own business.
Mm.
That is that because like that's essentially them paying you to do the job that they hired you to do so that you can in turn take business away from them to do the same thing. I get it, capitalism.
Mm.
But with inflation, the notion of minimum wage and whatnot, and we see how high gas is and how things are going. How a lot of Americans are in no different situation than anyone brought over here in chattel slavery. At least in slavery, you ain't had to go home. You ain't had to add time to your commute. You know what I mean? Like now, I gotta spend at least an hour and a half, 2 hours to get to and from work. Then I gotta work here, get treated like a piece of shit. How's it any different?
Mm.
And like, it's new wage slavery. Yeah, you think you're free because you get to go home, but we not. It's either go get a job, be here when the fuck I tell you to, and I say it that way intentionally. It's like be here when the fuck I tell you to, leave when I tell you to. You know what I mean? Oh, you need time off? No.
Right.
What do you mean I'm requesting time off? This is not slavery. If I'm not coming to work, I'm not coming to work. You lucky I gave you a fucking notice.
Right.
And I'm not to call myself a communist or anything, but the proletariat has the power. If I don't do the work, there's no work being done. So you're not generating profits.
Mm-hmm.
You should probably treat me with a little bit more respect. But the way the world's going, we see it over and over. Damn.
Right.
And I heard it all the time. People will go to work for a company. They put in 20 years. You find some jerk off who just graduated. You can pay him $40,000 less than what you're paying that person. You hire that person. Ultimately, as long as the financial goals being met, what do you care about interpersonal work life? You know what I mean? Day-to-day shit. And that's just the shitty part of capitalism. It's just a part of business. But it's unfortunate, and I don't agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where that whole song came from.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you breaking it down because, like, yeah, it is that thing where, especially for anyone who is in a really active band, where it's like, hey, like I travel a lot, I go and do these fests, the idea that even most corporate jobs just have like 2 weeks of time off, where it's like, what do you mean I'm going to take 2 weeks of time off? Like,
I have to come to 50 weeks in a row. I only get 2 weeks off.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's no way to live. And I think like, there's always, I feel like very few people actually get like like everyone's wired differently. So some people are like, I have to start my own business. I can't work for anyone else. And I'm going to like figure out how to do it. And then, there are some people that like kind of maybe get a little bit too much in that mindset where maybe they're actually like a really good number 2 or number 3 at like a company that's already established. And then all the weight is off of them as far as like being the last line of defense of whatever they're doing. But yeah, I think a lot of people in hardcore, again, they align their lifestyle with like traveling and going to shows and, doing cool shit with people around the world that they care about. And I think very few people actually get to work at a place where that is understood and appreciated. That's like, yeah, I think it's awesome that you're going and doing these things. Like most of the times it's like, well, what do you mean you want 3 weeks off for to go traveling? And it's like, I guess I'm going to quit this job so I can do this and I'll just, figure it out once I get back.
crazy that I would have to explain. I shouldn't have to give you a reason as to why I'm not coming to work. I'm not coming to work. I'm a person. I have autonomy. I can't be there today. Even if all I'm going to do is eat Doritos and go to bed, that's what I feel like I need to do. I can't come to work.
Right.
That's it. That's the beginning and end, at least is what it should be. Well, and I mean, fucking America, and even the way I was raised, my older brother and my father, and shout out to them because I ain't even gonna hold. I've been financially supported by the dudes in my life because I'm a fucking asshole. But I still don't believe it's right. They shouldn't have to sacrifice or put things on hold in order to support the people they care about. There's enough money in the world. Like there's literally enough money in the world that everyone should be fine.
Mm.
And as the person who used to pick up dead bodies for the state, and this is just the state of Maryland alone, the amount of people I picked up who didn't have next to kin but had formidable homes. I mean, you got vehicles, which means you got insurance, you got credit cards, you got a house full of shit. All that money goes to who? The government. Let's talk about Social Security. You talk about there's going to be no Social Security, but like people die of cancer and AIDS and shit all the time. And all that money isn't being utilized and put back into the community in the world. It's being hoarded.
Mm-hmm.
People just keep a lot of money to themselves to do what with? I guess make more money. I'm also speaking from the position of being poor, so I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But I do know that there's enough going on in the world for everyone to be taken care of.
Right.
Enough wealth has been generated, and there's no excuse for it. It's greed.
It totally, you're totally right. And I think, there was some kind of video that I saw where it was talking about the difference between like a million and a billion as far as like just actually grasping like the difference as far as, it's like, oh, it's just 3 extra zeros.
Was it like a million years, $1 million in seconds is only this? But $1 billion in seconds is fucking 32 years, something crazy like that. Like, come on.
I think I might butcher this, so take this with a grain of salt. But it was like if it was distance wise to drive 1 million, I forget what the measurement is, but to drive 1 million, it would take you like a couple of hours. And we're all hardcore kids. We're all used to jumping in a vehicle and driving for multiple hours. So you're like, oh, two and a half hour drive, totally fine. To do 1 billion was like 3 years or something crazy like that. So again, it's like the numbering and all of that, when we hear like, oh, Jeff Bezos or any of those people are billionaires, I don't think we actually grasp how massive that is. And it's just pathetic to see all those people like play like woe is me when it comes to being taxed. And it's like, I don't think that billionaires should exist, like it's bananas.
You shouldn't be allowed to have that much fucking money. That's crazy. One dude, because let's break it down. We're all human. Now, this, and I'm gonna say this, and that maybe they're not human. That's another topic.
Have you heard Jeff Bezos laugh? It sounds inhuman.
All I'm saying is, as a person who's been on the planet and knows a ton of people, I don't know. Once you make 6 figures, you good. Food, shelter, water, you all right.
Yeah.
Like what more do you need? But yeah, New Age slavery was just especially in terms of the pandemic and like the dude I was working for picking up bodies and whatnot. It's just like people are out here getting money, and of course I don't know everyone's personal finances and who they owe off the books, this, that, and the third, but I don't know. I was doing fine. So there's enough wealth to go around that like people shouldn't be fucking not taking a piss at work, working in a fucking Amazon building because they're worried about getting hit with time off task. What the fuck is even that? What is that?
Right. Yeah.
I can't take a piss at work. I just don't. It just don't make no sense to me. I just don't get it. It'll never make sense. It's not like we're building ships for a war effort. It's not the 30s. It's not the 50s. Like it's 2022. I got a computer in my hand. I can sell pictures of my feet and make more money than I am doing here. So like, what's going on? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's a crazy world. Yeah, I'm just thinking about there's a video that I saw where it's like Jeff Bezos's laugh, the richer that he got, and it just gets like more like evil villain-esque as as he's scaled Amazon. But yeah, it's wild. Like I think the thing, if we can tie this back into hardcore, it's like I think the thing that has always remained something when tied to that topic is how accessible it is. To go to like a crazy giant show that has thousands of people, usually the price tag of that show is 3 digits worth, and sometimes like you could go to a hardcore show for $5 and see a bunch of badass bands. So at least inflation is going up, which sucks ass, but I hope if I'm having to pay $30 at a local hardcore show to see 3 bands, that is becoming an issue. I think that's a greater issue at play.
Now I am being a hypocrite because the pricing gone up, shorty.
Yeah, it's like it's easy for me to say, oh, $5 should be every hardcore show, but then I'm like, well, none of the bands are actually getting paid if like only 40 kids are showing up.
Because what all right, so I don't know if you ever have looked it up or whatnot. There's a notion that 30 is the new 20 because people have lived longer due to medical advances and whatnot. But as a 30-year-old man, you be on the planet 30 years, you're going to incur some debt.
Yep.
So if you're going to be a 30-plus-year-old man in a hardcore band, and I'm only speaking from my position with a baby and whatnot, I can't, financially speaking, go do the thing, make the music, practice and whatnot, and not be compensated because I actually have a person to feed.
Right.
But of course, you got to follow your dreams and do the thing. So it does get to a gray area, as we spoke to earlier, where it's like, well, shit. I'm still a punk. Like, I'm still a punk in my heart. You know what I mean? I'm still a skinhead, but also gas going up, chain supplies messed up. You know what I mean? The pandemic really killed a lot of people. There are not as many people on the planet as were before the pandemic, which means there's no one to do the things. Also, the long-term effects of COVID, the flu still occurs, death. And like as society tends
mental
to break
health,
down,
like influx, yeah.
Like as society tends to break down, the cost of your labor goes up. You got to compensate.
Yeah.
If you want to see the thing, you got to pay for it. It's a double-edged sword, and it sucks. I should have just went to fucking college, became a CPA or some shit.
Akil, I'm gonna risk it for the potential biscuit with this next question because I don't know how true or untrue this is, but based off
What you got?
Are you a bowling fanatic?
I would not say I'm a bowling fanatic anymore.
Okay. I saw your Instagram story the day before, or I guess you uploaded it yesterday, and it was still live today. And you're like, I hate when people are fucking around in the bowling alleys, and then I'm like, oh, is it cute? Okay, yeah.
Let me tell you. So, like bowling, I grew up in a household with bowling trophies. Okay. I've been in bowling league since like before I could even throw a ball properly. I've been bowling. My parents bowled. My parents were in a fucking bowling league with my grandparents. My uncles cracked 3 bowling pins in half. Like, we bowl. I love bowling. I cannot stand when people go to the bowling alley and act a fool. There's etiquette. There's like as wild and rambunctious as I am, there's still a standard. And that's why I stay out of trouble. You got to follow the rules. You can break them occasionally, but the rules have to exist. In order, you can't break the rules if you don't have the rules.
Right.
Otherwise, you just have pure anarchy. Most people can't survive in an anarchist system. We don't have time.
Right.
I love bowling.
Mm.
Like bowling's my shit. I was trying to go pro at one point in time, and once things get a little bit more stable, I'm going back.
Damn. Okay. So I feel like you started with I'm not a bowling fanatic, but then you ended with I'm gonna go pro once, and watch me in the next few years.
Okay, yeah, you could probably say I'm a fanatic. I made my old lady. I made my person watch entire bowling matches, like 2-hour bowling matches.
Oh wow. Okay.
I love bowling. The different oil patterns and the different coatings on the balls and the way they drill them and your approach and oh man, I love bowling.
Has Endit ever done bowling shirts, or is there a desire to do that?
Well, if we do it after this interview, you get one.
I'm gonna hold you to that. The minute I see like a live, I'm like, "Yo, here's my address, and here's the clip where you promised that."
I don't mind. Yeah, I love bowling, dog. That's damn. I love bowling. Like, I look at it this way. I didn't know the smell of cigarette smoke was cigarettes until I was like 17, 18. I just thought that was the smell of the bowling alley.
Interesting. Okay. So
Yeah,
you learned about bowling before smoking.
Because like in Baltimore at the time I came up bowling, you could bring a cooler, you could bring your own food, you could smoke indoors.
Mm-hmm.
So as a youth, I didn't know like, oh, those are cigarettes. That's just what the bowling alley smelled like. I love bowling. Yes, I'm a bowling fanatic. I'll eat that.
Okay, glad that we cleared the record. What's been your best game ever, point wise?
So my highest game is a 285.
Damn, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, out of a 300. But I bowl with cats who have bowled 30, 40, 300 games.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm not that good.
That's still quite high, like recreationally, like I see people like, oh, I just cracked over 100. So that's like really impressive to me. So
yeah. But like also like my cousin man is a bowling alley. I used to work at the bowling alley. Bowling's been a real big part of my life. The only reason I'm not bowling right now, I had this van. I had a van and it didn't lock. I got it from the homie Kevin, who recorded our album, Kevin Burnson from United Nations. Shout out Kevin. The van didn't lock, and I had my bowling equipment
because of almonds getting thrown around.
No. This was shit. What happened with that van? I had a car get repossessed because I'm a piece of shit, and I bought this van off him for $200, and then that's just what I was driving around.
Gotcha.
And I had my equipment in there. And I put somebody out of the club because I work at Auto Bar. I'm a bouncer.
Okay.
I put somebody out, and I really think they were upset I put them out. Went into my van, took my shit, and threw it away.
Oh, okay. Made it personal.
I mean, they also suck. So fuck.
Yeah, because I saw that story. I'm like, okay, I feel like you only reshare some kind of like millennial bowling like thing and then add your own caption to it if you actually love bowling. So I always, creep my guest Instagram before just to get more context about the show. I'm like, there's a couple live shots where those might be bowling, boots that Akil is wearing. So I took a chance and I think I landed properly on it.
Let me tell you, the bowling alley is sacred. One, that whole lane is greased. As a man with weak ankles, you're gonna hurt yourself. We're throwing bowling balls. I don't know. People are also in there trying to make money. Bowling's real serious. Like you can hurt yourself. Like
right.
I'm throwing a 50-pound ball full speed. It's a whole process. It's an approach. It's just like golfing.
Right.
So don't beat the bowling alley just like throwing the ball down the lane. You'll hurt yourself. You may hurt someone else. Someone may be in there going through something severe. Like I bowled a whole lot when my daughter was born. And that was really like a therapeutic thing for me to try to get shit together. I just go to the bowling alley and throw the ball as hard as I
Like by
could. And
by
like,
yourself, just like you and the
be
bowling
in the
ball.
bowl,
Mm.
be in the bowling ball. You know what I mean? So like, I take bowling is sacred to me, and whatever. Things are sacred to a ton of people for a ton of different reasons.
Sure.
But people go into the bowling alley, they throw the ball, you'll hurt yourself, you'll crack the lane. People are also at work right now, so now you're gonna make my work day more difficult. I fucking hate it. And then I used to work Friday and Saturday nights when it's like rock and bowl and it's all fun and shit. So now I got drunk assholes throwing bowling balls mad at me because their food ain't up yet. And I'm like, you people suck. I know you're
Right.
here having fun. This is not fun to me. This
Right.
is my lifestyle choice, and I'm rather offended that you don't respect it.
Can I tell you a personal bowling ball or bowling story from me? So this is maybe I was like 11, 10 years old. Classic bowling ball or bowling alley birthday party for a friend of mine. I can't remember exactly what happened because this was a lane where the ball return was not like it doesn't go under and then come up. It's like you can see the balls kind of like rolling down. And I think what happened is there was a ball that was getting returned and then someone had thrown a ball and it kind of skipped the lane and then it kind of stopped it. It was either that or someone was being a little bit of a hooligan and maybe just like took a bowling ball to throw it back at it. And then it just became this whole thing. And someone who's like, I'm trying to fix it. Like I'm a fixer. Like I just like, I just want to try and like, resolve something. I remember no one was doing anything. So I walked up and I went to go grab the ball to like just throw it so it could get back up on the track. And like, I didn't look. And then this pinky was like in between the ball and just, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And still to this day, I don't know how, because I was in pain. I iced it. I was like, for sure, like this is broken. And for some reason, like I've never had any issues with it ever since. And I don't think it ever got like, oh, you need like a splint or like something like that.
Yeah.
So I must have just skirted that like just in time without having like a broken pinky. But it literally was, I could see the pain in your face as far as like how tense you are.
God damn it. So also, me and my bowling thing, like I said, it was a family thing. And like I said earlier, you have to have like as much as my parents have been supportive of me subjugating the law and living the life that I've chosen to lead, I still know better. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, in terms of bowling, just give it a second. Wait for the ball to come back. You get your ball, you go bowl. It's really the most calm thing in the world. What's the rush? You can't make that ball come back faster.
This was very.
It's really my happy place for real. And when people come fuck up my happy place, I guess it bothers me.
Maybe one of the last bowling questions I can ask you is, I'm sure the majority of people listening to this, most people have bowled before.
Yeah.
But if there's anyone that's like trying to get a little bit of a leading edge from a bowling fanatic like yourself, what would be like the one thing that you would suggest as far as like trying to up your bowling game, whether it's like a different technique or just like something that comes to mind there for people to bowl a little better?
If you're gonna bowl a little better, right? Take it seriously, right? Allow yourself to get frustrated because you're gonna fuck up. Keep yourself loose, and in all honesty, get you your own shoes and get your own ball. Like figure out if you're left-handed or right-handed. Maybe throw a backup ball. Figure out what you do and get your own equipment, and then it just feels a little bit more personal. You know what I mean? Get your ball. I like my bowling ball when I was 6 had my initials on it. And I kept that ball till I was like 13. And I broke it myself in the way.
Yeah. That's very interesting that getting your own bowling ball like just helps frame your mind a little bit more versus like, thousands of people have thrown this, pink one, and then now I'm using the orange one or whatever. If you're like, this is my weapon to knock down these pins, I think that there's probably a more sense of pride there.
It's just you against those pins. Fuck those pins. I got a bowling tattoo. Like, get your own shoes, get a ball, get it drilled, and get a bag, and get you a towel and the rosin bag. Just like in the same way someone really loves football or golfing or lacrosse or anything like that, get your own equipment and just go bowling.
Man,
bowling it's expensive now. Bowling didn't used to be this expensive, but go to the bowling alley, make friends with the staff, and then they'll cut the lanes on you for free and go bowling.
You got me hyped up. I want to go bowling after this podcast now. So,
you ever heard that someone take the skinheads bowling?
I don't think so.
Look it up. Take the skinheads bowling. Be a skinhead. Go bowling.
I love that. Akil, this has been such a fun chat with you. I have one more question before we start to wrap up the show, and I ask any. Oh yeah, please.
My bad, because you had sent me a message prior, and it was in the whole message request thing, and then I saw it, and I was like, shit, I got life to lead. My apologies. I'm glad I came in because you were right. I like you, yeah.
Oh, I appreciate that, and yeah, like it's always. I always preface it at times with like, hey, I know this is going to message request purgatory, and like, if you're a band or person in a band, like I will admit I have left people there, with different requests and different things, and sometimes I feel bad. So like maybe I should respond to this person, but it becomes a little different when you can kind of have a gut check of like, is this person just trying to get something from me, or are they just about the shit? So.
Yeah, are they cool? They just want something.
Yeah, but I'm really yeah, honestly, I'm really glad you came on. The last question before we start to wrap up, and I ask every podcast guest who comes on the show this question, so I'm really excited to hear your answer. Tell me a Mosh-related story that first comes to mind, and that could be anything. Where it could be related to you, could be related to End It, it could be related to any other band or show that you were just attending. Whatever's the first Mosh-related thing that comes to mind is how we start to wrap up. Could be violent, could be wholesome, could be somewhere in between.
I mean, there's always, anytime I see people pick kids up when they get hurt, or like anytime the pit stops because someone's got hurt, it warms my heart. Because it lets us know that we still human. You know what I mean? Like, we're not all just fucking here to beat people up. Cool. But in relation to the question you asked, the homie, Nick Calhoun, Nick didn't dropped out. He didn't grow up, but I love him to the moon and back. We were at Circle Pit Fest at Velocipede Bike Shop in Baltimore, which is now part of the Metro Gallery, which my bassist owns. And Nick got to doing his thing. Now he's like 6'2", 6'3". He threw a spin kick, kicked the dude in his fucking head. His fucking eyeball popped out of his head. So the kid was standing there in shock with his eyeball in his hand. Now Nick was in school to work at shock trauma at the time. He took the kid outside, put his fucking eyeball back in his head, came back in the shop.
Damn.
Yeah.
Like one of these, just like slam.
Yeah, just one of those. Or another time where some jerk off, I'm not going to drop his name, no free clout, he got hurt and someone broke his nose, and the only two people to like escort him out the room were me and Nick. So like, yeah, people getting hurt. God damn. Oh shit. How about when I broke my fucking arm? Yo, I dislocated my elbow one time at a show.
Okay. Playing or just attending?
No, I was just moshing. I hit a cartwheel, floor was wet. Broke my arm, was out of work for 6 months. Don't mosh. Just listen to it on Spotify. Stay in the house.
I will say I love how you started with like, I think it's so great that we pick people up and all that, and then just like banger after banger of like great mosh related story. And then you're like, oh no, maybe just listen to it on Spotify. Akil, this has been again a great conversation. All the relevant links for your band, your GoFundMe, and all that good shit will be in the show notes and the description. But if there's anything you want to send the people off with, anything you want to shout out or hype up, the floor is yours.
Shout out Flat Spot. Shout out Andy. Shout out Kevin Tit and motherfucking Up the Blunts podcast. Shout out Jawbone. Shout out Baltimore. Shout out Che. Shout out Flat Spot. All the homies. I ain't got nothing else. If you fuck with me, I'll fuck with you.
I love that. Akil, I am really excited for the future of how this release takes End It. Huge fan of you and huge fan of the band. I'm gonna see you at Act Like You Know because my band is also playing that, so we are gonna hang out. And looking forward to it. Thank you again for coming on the podcast. We should definitely do this again sometime.
Hell yeah. If you ever want to do an update, I got time. I appreciate you.
Yeah. We'll do an update. If you ran back into the deer or not.
Thanks, homie.